How's it going? I hope you're doing well this morning. Beautiful morning here, sun shining. So always feels good when that's happening. Your time, I want you to get into a comfortable seat. If you've got something to support you, sit up on it, a cushion or a book or just something to elevate the pelvis a little bit. Quite often when you are sitting on the ground on a mat, it takes a little bit of time to work out exactly how much height you may need on any given day to really support the hips. And then when the hips are held in that way, they become a great foundation for the spine, for the lumbar, lower back into the ribs. And quite often our habit is, because we don't tend to align or sit with the pelvis in a healthy position, the back then has the strain of trying to support the hips, and the opposite is designed to happen. The hips are designed to support, to be the foundation. So take your time, feel into it. Now, when you get into your seat, whatever position you're sitting on, and if you want to sit in a chair or a couch, that's fine, perfect. It doesn't matter. We're going to lean over to one side. Let's say we lean over to the left side, so the right hand can slide underneath the glute, grab the buttock, and I want you to pull the buttock up the back, as if you're trying to get the flesh of the buttock and pull it up the back, as you then release that side back down onto what you're sitting on. And for a moment, just doing one side like that and noticing. So when you pull the glute up, what it does is it sucks the femur bone back in the hip socket. And it's designed to sit deeper than it will usually sit for most of us. We do the same on the other side. We grab the glute, we scoop it back, and then we release. And that repositioning in the pelvis not only supports the movement of the sacrum, so the top of the sacrum tilts into the arch of the lower back, and it helps all of those vertebrae align in a much healthier and much more connected way. And the space between the vertebrae then for the discs, that softer tissue, is much more balanced and even. And that just lets not only the blood move through those areas more easily, but there's this movement of prana, of energy, of life force that moves through the spine up along that channel. And that gets to move more freely too. Equally, when you support the spine in this way, your capacity to feel more anchored, grounded in your body will increase also. You know, so often what tends to happen for a lot of us in our frenetic, busy lives is we accumulate a lot of energy right up in our heads. You know, this idea of the head going off, the thoughts going off all the time. So in one sense, it disconnects us from our body, and that then disconnects us from the earth. And this is our sense of home, our sense of at home within ourselves. You know, and quite often we look for things around us to create that for us. You know, we look for, you know, this is what possessions are all about. Friends, family, ideas of self. They're all about ways of anchoring ourselves, of feeling like we're part of something bigger. And that journey really begins inside each of us. At least this is the invitation of each of our lives, is to refine that capacity within ourselves to feel anchored, to feel safe, to feel at home. And how we align our body and the intention with which we do that has a huge capacity to really support that process within ourselves. You know, this is the way in which we can feel safe no matter where we are, or we can feel at home no matter where we are, comfortable in our own skin. And each of us, of course, is on this process, this journey of unfolding that experience for ourselves. And this is a huge component to the practice of yoga. There's these two elements, and one is this idea of anchoring down. This is our sense of connection to something bigger, that idea of safety or at homeness. And the idea is that when we feel that, in the same way in which a tree will root down into the earth to stabilize itself, then we get to play with our capacity to open up, to be freer in the world. It's this paradox of how boundaries actually can create freedom. And of course, boundaries, when they're applied in ways that aren't healthy, will stagger us, will suffocate us. And yet when we apply boundaries that are safe, the kind of boundaries we need in our lives, what supports and suits us, and our practice is very much about exploring that, then our capacity to unfold becomes much more accessible. In the same way a flower has to open or an apple has to ripen. We know that's the trajectory for these things that grow. we are no different to that. We are exactly the same. Each of us is here to unfold ourselves, to explore what's in here, what wants to come through each of us. This idea that we are all made up of this one energy, this one light. This is the tantric perspective. It's all one thing, and yet it articulates itself through all of these different prisms. So each of us is an individual expression of this one light, that this light gets to articulate itself in a very unique way through each of us. And a lot of our work is, how do we get out of the way? How do we dissolve some of the trauma blocks holding that stop that movement of energy through us, that stop us letting ourselves be an expression of that one light in this world? So this is our journey. This is our exploration. So first thing we're going to do, we're sitting as comfortably as you can. Feel down into the hips. Have a little waddle. Have a little feel of that space. Just notice that space. And then take a few deeper breaths and breathe into the sides of the ribs and the back of the ribs. And as you do it, move a little through the shoulders. Just sway and feel and notice. We just begin this process of moving into the body. You know, the body is in itself an anchor for us. And of course, then there's specific areas of the body that are very much associated with that quality of rootedness and anchoredness. But just being in the body, any part of the body, and feeling it, noticing it, begins this process of moving our awareness out of where it gets stuck and in through the nervous system, through the body. Let's hold the ribs now. Thumbs are at the back, fingers at the front. Take deep breaths, and in particular, breathe into the back of the ribs. And as you fill the ribs, lift them up, lift them up, lift them up. We're going to arc over to one side. We're going to put one hand down on the floor, and we get to breathe into the tightness of the longer side. None of this is ever about forcing or straining, but it is about accessing the hidden holding. Those hidden holding patterns are what block even dissemination of ourselves through our bodies, our awareness. So you just, as you meet those tightnesses, be kind, breathe. It's not about forcing, it's not about straining. Breathe into it. And every breath allows things to begin to dilate and open. We'll come back to center. We hold the two sides again. Fill the ribs up, lift them up. We'll go over to the second side. Breathe, enjoy what you're meeting. Enjoy the breath. Breathe 3. Breathe 2. Breathe 1. Perfect. We'll come all the way back. We're going to rest the hands on the thighs. We're going to bring the index finger and the thumb to touch, just to gently connect, and we'll close the eyes. Now, let your belly relax. Let your face relax, your jaw relax. We're breathing through the nose, if that's available. And very simple, we're just bringing the attention to the breath. Now, as we come into the practice, the tendency is we're carrying lots of stuff. We're complicated, complex beings. We work on many levels and many layers simultaneously. So as you close the eyes and you begin to notice the breath, you're going to notice other stuff, feelings, sensations, sounds. Acknowledge whatever you need to in this moment, whatever is there for you in this moment. Just notice it. Our practice is never pushing something away. It's never shutting something out. It's never denying something. What we're building is receptivity. And within that, we're refining our capacity for our attention to be brought to the places in which we wish it to be brought. Yeah? We're just playing with this idea of focus. So you can notice everything, and the attention can be with your breath. And as you're breathing, you might notice your attention wanders, and that's perfect. no big deal. And when you're ready, you come back to your breath. So we're breathing through the nose, and we're going to begin to deepen the breath. I want you to take deep breaths, but no effort. It's as easy as you can make it. So you're filling the ribs up to a level that feels comfortable. Noticing the feeling of the movement of the ribs as you're breathing. And as you inhale through the nose, deep breath, I want you to exhale quietly through the mouth. And the exhalation is slow and long. Inhaling and exhaling. Slow, long, deep breaths. Again, we're not forcing and we're not straining. That's it. Stay with your breath for a little bit longer. We will move soon. Slow, long, deep breaths. The exhalation, it's almost like you're blowing, if you were blowing a paper boat away from you on some water. Slow, steady, even exhalation. A few more of these. Let's do one more. One more. Deep, deep, deep breath. Perfect. Okay. So open the eyes, let the breath come back to its natural rhythm. The breath is such an incredible tool, even much more so than moving the body. In terms of creating the kind of change we wish to see in our lives on a physical, mental, emotional, energetic level, in terms of opening to a deeper sense of that quality of connectedness, how we're connected to something bigger. All of those capacities to perceive in ways that are more expansive. The breath is a key component to beginning to create those state awarenesses. So we'll continue to practice with the breath throughout the practice. For now, we're going to come onto our hands and our knees, onto all fours, and begin to move a little. So you come onto the hands and knees. The first thing we're going to do is just close the eyes and let the hips sway a little. And just feel and notice the body. So you don't have to get anything right or move in any particular way. Initially, this is just about feeling. Breathing and noticing. Shrug with the shoulders, move with the hips, make all the movements super simple, fluid, easy. notice your body, just what's in there for you. You know, the sense of fluidness through a lot of the movement, maybe a sense of stuckness or a kinking in certain places, which is all absolutely perfect. You know, this is the story with having a human body, is that they're tricky. They get tight, and this is the language the body uses. When the body's trying to tell us something, it creates tightness, pain, discomfort. So just feel, notice, move your neck, head. Remember, they're part of the body. Quite often they get kind of removed or cut off from the rest of the body. Amazing how the ideas that we hold in terms of what's important in our society, and so much of what's rewarded in our society is this kind of empirical perspective, you know, and it actually can create a sense of cutoff from the rest of our body, from that rooted part of ourselves, when it's taken too seriously. You know, obviously the rational mind, the logical mind, is a hugely incredible tool, but it doesn't run the show. It's not designed to run the show. Part of the reason the world is in such a mess is because it's that aspect of our nature that is actually trying to solve the problems that it's creating. What we're learning to lead with and connect into is the heart, the wisdom of the heart. So breathe expansive breaths into the ribs, grip at the fingers, push the earth away, anchor through the base of the fingers. Bring more weight to that base of the finger area and away from the wrist. Bend the elbows a couple of inches to the sides of the room. Now, without moving your hands, pull them. Can you feel the way the tone through the arms and the chest engages? Keep it as you re-straighten the arms. Determine how much weight work you put into this. So whatever amount of effort you're using, don't let it burn you out. You might need to back off a little. Some of you might need to amp up a little. As you're doing that, fill the ribs with some deeper breaths. Let the lower back and belly relax downward, and at the same time, without moving, push the knees apart. You feel all of that now. Anywhere that gets tight, anywhere that gets sore, you got to breathe into that space. And you got to notice your capacity as you breathe into that space to create freedom. Expanding the softer tissue, separating the bones, freeing the nerves. Okay, we're going to keep the legs, hips doing what they're doing. They're not going to move. We're going to walk the arms to the left. Just going to arc to the left. Now, I'm not forcing, I'm not straining. The moment I meet some resistance in the body, I pause and I breathe into the tightness. And we'll come back through center. And we go to the second side. You know, so often when we meet discomfort in the body, you know, if we're doing a workout, moving the body, the tendency is to kind of try to go as deep as you can. And obviously that creates a change and opens things up, but actually what it does is create a superficial shift. And really what we're interested in, certainly what I'm interested in, is the deeper shifts, how we begin to create a change to the programming that creates the tightness. And so much of that is away and shrug and move a little. Like this idea of, you know, talking to plants, you know, they've done studies that show that when you speak to plants kindly or pray to plants or sing to plants, that they grow better. So we're exactly the same. And what we're trying to do is literally be kind to ourselves as we go into and find the holdings, the blocks, the resistances in our lives, in our bodies, minds and hearts. Perfect. Let's come down onto the forearms. Interlace the fingers, walk the elbows together, bring the forearms right in together. Now, as they come in, come back to the breath. You notice the way it'll create an opening and expanding. So we're going to keep everything that's going on, but we're going to separate the elbows. till they're shoulder distance, right under the shoulders, not wider, not closer. You're actively pressing the forearms down. Notice where the head is. For many of us, it'll want to drop. You keep it lifted, gaze toward the hands. Little shrugging in the shoulders, even with the work that you're doing. So often when we do begin to engage muscles in the body, our tendency is to become rigid, stuck. And of course, we're really interested in the idea of power, of strength. We want our bodies to be strong, to get stronger, but not at the cost of our mobility, not at the cost of our fluidness, the body's capacity to be open, receptive, light. Breathe. Okay, release the hands, come back up onto the hands, and then lift the hands off the floor. And we're going to come up onto the knees, right up. For a moment here, relax the belly, release the arms, close the eyes, bring the attention back to the breath. Just come back to the breath. Your inhalations and your exhalations. Just notice the breath. As little effort as you can to be here. Perfect. We're going to open the eyes. Let's take the right foot forward. We're going to take the foot slightly forward of the ankle, or the ankle slightly forward of the knee. Okay. Hands then go to the base of the glutes. I want us to hold the base of the glutes first. And you'll notice one side working and one side not so much, or one side is full and one side isn't full. So healthy and healing, and also grounding and anchoring. So the base of the bum begins to stick back a little. Now you'll notice as you take the bum back, the upper body at the same pace, as if it were one movement, leans forward. You're going to get some stretch through the back of the front leg. You go to whatever feels accessible. It's about straining, but you'll notice that the two sides are beginning to fill and engage simultaneously. So this is great in terms of the alignment of the bones, the joints, and then increasing the flow of movement of blood, of energy through that area. Keep the hips there. Take the two arms to point down toward the floor, right arm on the inside of the right leg. Push the right arm and leg against each other. Build a little bit of resistance. The bum sticks out. The belly and the sternum have a sense of length. We're going to maintain that, and we may move a little here or we may not. You've got to work this out for yourself. We're going to see, can I sink a little further toward the floor? Close the eyes. Stay with the breath. Breathe 3, 2. Toes in the 2 feet, even the back foot. So you got the toenails of the back foot, the top of the back foot on the floor. Spread the toes and just feel the toes and their connection to the floor. The feet are a huge part of how we anchor into the earth. And of course we walk on them. So, they're designed in that way to feel the connection. And for lots of reasons, they don't do the job they're designed to do. This idea of reflexology and all of these points corresponding to areas throughout the body and organs throughout the body, all ending at the soles of the feet. We're designed to get the soles of our feet in contact with the earth more than we generally do. And what happens is this energetic reciprocation where energy is released from the body into the earth. And the job, or one of the jobs of the earth, is to transform that, to clean that energy as it gives us more life force. So a great way of beginning, they call it grounding. It's like there's all kinds of documentaries about it. And it's great to get onto the earth, even to go out into your garden, take your shoes off as much as you can, or occasionally, and just feel the earth, move the toes. So feeling the earth to the base of the glutes again. So we want to create balance in the glutes. Bum goes back. Bum goes back. Again, we're trying to keep the hips back. They want to go forward because they're not used to being back this far. Belly stays, are leaning forward. Two arms come down toward the floor. Left arm on the inside of the leg again. They're pressing together, the inner leg and the arm. Little resistance, not enough to be stressful or be difficult. And then you're just exploring a pivoting that happens at the pelvis, yeah, as opposed to this shortening of the belly. So much of what we do in the world is overtaxing the front of the body, which disconnects the back. Our practice is interested in balanced action, all sides working together as a team system. And this is how we access more vitality, longevity, more strength and space. And then for one, beautiful. We're going to come up. Okay. The ankle slightly forward of the knee. This time we're taking the hands up under the ribs again. Now we're on the ribs, lower ribs, not on the waist. Thumb at the back, fingers at the front. Breathe into the ribs. And in particular, I'm interested in the back ribs simply because they tend not to work as much as the front. Front ribs tend to move with more ease because we work them more. We inhabit them more. The back of the body, we inhabit less. So our practice is to focus more on that space. Breathe into the back ribs. As you feel the ribs push out into the hands, even squeeze in with the hands. So the ribs have something to really press out against, and it works and engages those intercostal muscles. Now, as you fill your ribs up, lift them up. Pull one side, then the other. So you notice this mid-region elongation. And then trying to maintain as much of that fullness, gazes forward. Feet are anchored, 2 feet are anchored. We're going to let the hips sink forward this time, the front knees sink forward to whatever feels available. Now, as you get into his tightness through the back leg or the hips, pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. Breathe. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect. We bring it back. Let's change sides. Again, position the legs. Hold the ribs. Feel the ribs. Lift the ribs up. Open the front of the throat. And then taking your time as you anchor down through the feet, working the feet. Press the top of the back foot down. Let the hips sink forward. Yeah. So again, what we're doing is we're unlocking, accessing the hidden pockets of holding in our body. And then we get to transform them. It's like this idea of what we call the light of awareness. We bring them into that light, and that light then begins to dissolve the holding, the resistance in the body. This is the whole invitation of all of our lives, is to bring ourselves into the light of awareness, all those hidden parts, the shadow, into the light. And then we get to create transformation. So our practice is this process of revelation. Breathe into what you're meeting. Breathe into it. Breathe 3, breathe 2, breathe 1. Nice work. Okay, we're going to come back. First side again. Okay, so again, get the feet lined up, front foot slightly forward of the knee. Breathe into the ribs. Again, we're going to hold the ribs and fill them and lift them. Every time we do it, the body's getting more and more used to moving into its fullest expression. You know, the body, the expanded body, you think about it, it has space, has buoyancy. As the tissue expands, it works better. So fill everything up, lift up, let the hips sink forward, whatever feels available. Now, either staying here, if you feel like it, working the 2 feet, you lift the back knee, if you feel like it. Breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then for 1. Lower the back knee, release one leg back, one leg forward. Okay, 2 hands on the front thigh, close the eyes, notice your breath. And what else do you notice as you're breathing? Obviously, you're going to notice you're wobbling. It's part of it. Stay with the breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Perfect. Let's open the eyes. Let's hold the ribs. Swell the ribs as you breathe. Lift the ribs. Work through the 2 feet. Let the hips sink forward. Go to whatever feels available. Breathe. Okay. Again, if you want to, you lift the back knee. Breathe 4, 3, 2, and then for 1, we lower and release. 2 legs back. Okay, let's take the right foot forward one more time. This time, let's just ankle underneath the knee this time. Very simple. Right hand stays on the knee, left comes down to the floor. I'm going to slide the left over. Now, before I bring the weight of the body, I look at the hand, I spread the fingers, and I grip with the hand. And again, like before, I want to bring weight to these guys, the knuckles at the base of the fingers, the metacarpals. So I very intentionally anchor, particularly through the base of my index finger. And you'll notice that's the part that wants to lift up the most. So I really anchor it down. Now, the reason I do that is because when the hand engages in this way, the muscle through the arm engages more evenly and it supports the alignment of the joints. These are the areas that we really want to. Elbow, crease of the elbow lines up with my thumb. So for most of us, it wants to turn in toward the body. It's an external rotation. And as I align, then I get to bring the weight of my body over the arm and shoulder. Other hand onto the ribs like before. A couple of breaths, feeling the pulsing of the ribs. So when you notice all sides, the front, the top of the side, and the back of the ribs are moving as one piece, then you're in a more receptive place. And we get to go a little further. Push the bottom hand down, let the top ribs arc up, breathe into what you're meeting. Breathe into it. Breathe into it. Enjoy your breath. That's it. Breathe for 3. Breathe for 2. Breathe for 1. And then we release. One leg goes back and the other one comes forward. Again, lightly as you bring one hand down. Lightly as you bring it down. So no weight initially. You spread the fingers, you grip with the fingers, you anchor. So even before I bring my wrist down or my hand down, I'm pushing down through the base of the fingers, and then I lower the heel, and then the crease of the elbow lines up with the thumb. Then I know the arm is safe to take the weight of my body. And not only can I take the weight, but the weight will actually make my shoulder and arm stronger, as opposed to if I was misaligned, the whole thing will ultimately close up. Take the hand to the ribs, thumb at the back, fingers at the front, wait for the breath. Wait for the breath. And push the earth away and begin to open up, lengthen what you're feeling into. Breathe into what's there. And it's not about forcing or straining. Yes, it is meeting the discomfort that's there. Just meet it with kindness. You just go to the first part of it. You don't have to rush into the next place. Breathe. And for 2. And then for 1. Beautiful. Okay. So release. We're going to go back to the first side. We'll go a little deeper this time. So again, right hand stays up on the knee. Left engaging in the aligning of the hand and arm. The front of the body probably wants to face the floor, turns toward the front leg or toward the side wall. Hand onto the ribs initially. Shrugging of the two shoulders just to loosen things up. Bottom hand stays active, weight stays forward in the fingers. Now we begin to open up the top ribs a little bit more. Breathe and enjoy. Now the free hand, right hand to the crown of your head. So the elbow's almost in front of the nose, and what we want the head to be is neutral in terms of the alignment with the body. So the game is the nose and the navel are on the same line. They're on the same line. Front of the throat has a sense of openness. We're holding so that palm, the center of the palm is right at the crown of the head. Big breath into the ribs, press the head back, begin to tilt that right elbow toward the left. Front of the throat gets longer, stretches the belly and the chest. Breathe, open up the top ribs. See, can you turn a little bit toward the sky? Breathe 3. Breathe 2. Deal with the wobble. Body's amazing like that, always trying to support us. But tune into the breath. And really easy, comfortable, deepen the breath a little, noticing it at the sides of the ribs. You notice the way that right side has a sense of lightness to it, a sense of buoyancy as you breathe. This is what we're working with and uncovering through our practice, with our bodies, with our minds, with our hearts. The whole system is designed or has a capacity to experience more lightness, with joy, with happiness, with being in the world with more grace. All of that's there, it's in there. This is what all of these practices are about. It's all in there. You've got it. We're just exploring how we reveal it, how we experience it, how we bring it toward the surface, or how we go deeper through the layers of tightness and holding and gripping to uncover that potential. Okay, open the eyes. Let's take one leg back, other leg. 2, and then for 1. Beautiful. Okay, perfect. So we come up. Okay, first side again. I can tell you. First side again. All of these poses are like train journeys, bus journeys. You can hop off at any point you think is appropriate for you. So every step along the way, there's something revealing ourselves. So it's this kind of paradox that so often is within spiritual practices of, yes, the practices are about growth. Yes, they're a movement from A to B, like so many things in the world. You know, so many we're asked to do every day is you get to point B and you'll get paid, you get rewarded, you get the kids fed, whatever it is. All of it, though, is anchored in this idea of you don't need to go anywhere. It's paradoxical in one sense to the rational mind, but it's intuitively, to the intuitive heart, it makes perfect sense. So what our practices are exploring is this quality of fullness that is inherent to each of us. And so many of the movements in our lives tend to be, I don't have enough, I need to get more, I need to get this, I need to get that to be full, to be complete, to be happy. And we're doing actually, we're playing with the opposite idea. We're moving forward, but we're already full. So the dance from A to B then becomes, it's different in terms of the attitude and the awareness behind it. The idea of being able to wake up in the morning and have a sense of I'm full, I'm complete, I don't need anything. And yet, how does that then inform our journey through the world? Because yes, we are in the world, and part of being a human being is that we do need stuff, and we do. And those two aspects are equally true. And what we're doing is looking for the realizing that they're full. And in that, then, you know, this idea, the cup is full, it's easier to give. It's easier to be of service to others, to life. This is what we're awakening to within ourselves. And it's our wounding and our karma that tell us that we're not enough, that we, you know, have us acting in the shadows, in a sense. And in that sense, you know, not to belittle the suffering that's happening, it's amazing that all of this stuff is coming out, and we're getting to make then decisions about, no, this isn't acceptable, or this isn't, or this. and to see the dynamics of the human condition, you know, the trumps or the whatever, the darkness, the shadow, the ignorance. And only when it comes into the light do we get an opportunity to transform. And it's brutal in many senses. It's terrible in many senses. But in some ways, amazing too. It is a movement forward. The stuff that was under the carpet is now out to be seen. And then we can make decisions that move us forward into the light. Keep one hand on the knee, bring the other down to the floor, grip with the fingers, align the arm, take the hand to the ribs. Hug, feel, notice. Take the hand to the crown of the head, line up the arm, fill the ribs, tilt the elbow, open the front of the throat. Maybe you can turn a little to the sky, see if that's available now. If you want to, if you feel it's available, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, lift the hips higher, arc even further, turn a little bit more to the sky, open the front of the throat more, stretch the elbow further. Breathe 5, breathe 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the back knee, release the top hand, step the front leg back, just come up on the 2 knees, close the eyes, soften the belly, notice the breath. Perfect. Okay, second. One hand on the knee, we bring one down to the floor, we align, engaging the hand, really steady in the foundation, huge part of the practice. No matter how advanced your practice becomes or how deep your practice is, it will always begin with foundations. How you create foundations that are strong, safe, connected, supportive, arm, hand, working, pushing the earth away. Notice the difference between the shrug, where you drop into the arm, or when the arm anchors you. And it's a rooting down of the arm that then creates the rising up. It's using the earth and dropping into it, then everything gets contracted. So fill it up, hand to the ribs, breathe, enjoy the breath, open the top ribs, hand to the crown, align the head, press the head back into the fingers, extend that top elbow, left elbow to the right, open the throat. Maybe you can turn a little to the sky. We're only exploring. Tuck the back toes if you wish, lift the back knee, back hips tilting up or 2 hips tilting up, throat open. Maybe you can turn a little more to the sky. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back knee down, top arm releasing. Come back. Either if you can, you're sitting back on the heels or you're staying up on the knee, whichever version. Close the eyes. Notice the breath. Notice the breath. Stay with your breath. Perfect. Okay. Let's come back to hands and knees. Okay, so on your hands and knees, lower back relaxed, hips sway a little, some shrugging through the shoulders. Can you notice the difference in your body? The different feeling? That feeling of integrity as we begin to work with tissue. It's the balance between contraction and expansion, and this is just the way life articulates itself. If you could look at the smallest part of your cell, what you would see is a pulsation happening in the very center. This continuous process of expanding and contracting. We know it most easily in our body through the beat of our hearts. We know that if the heart is beating regularly, that we're alive. So this is happening in every cell in our body. This is happening in every cell in everything. Everything in this relative experience, everything in this manifest world has this pulsation. So then we think about the tissue of the muscles, and certain areas become overly dense, that they get overly connected to the contractive side of that pulsation, stuck in that heavy rhythm. And our job is to bring spaciousness and balance back to the whole system. Just move like liquid. Feel, notice, sway, pulse. Breathe, let the head and neck move a little as you're doing that. Perfect, okay. Bring the two legs over to the left side of the mat. Lower the hips down to the right. Okay. So the hips are heavy. I want you to push the earth away, particularly the heavier hand, the right hand. Push the earth away. Press it down. And then without moving, as the fingers grip in the same way we've done already, I want you to pull your hands towards your legs. Now, the tightness, the contraction is where you're breathing into. You've got to bring the space into those contracted places. Breathe into them. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, and then soften. Bend the two elbows so you get to sink down, and we're going to tuck the toes and come back. Back is relaxed. Ribs are full, lifted, throat open. We're trying to bring the curvature with us as we go to the second side. Lower the hips, let them stay heavy, and then push the earth away. Drag the hands towards you. Breathe. Watch your meeting. Breathe into the tightness. Breathe 2. Breathe 1. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to release down onto our shoulder, hip distance apart. We're going to take the arms down either side of us. If you can, you let the palms face up toward the sky. Close the eyes. Notice your breath. Breathe through the nose if that's available. I want you to tune into the hips and press the bum down into the floor, so much so that the arch in the lower back begins to lift up, that you're noticing the sacrum tilting. You notice the belly. Anywhere gets tight, space. Can you keep all the tension we carry in our bodies? Again, as the body articulates itself, it's trying to communicate to us. And a lot of the language, understanding the language. And rather than just dealing with the symptoms then, we get to connect into the causes and grow and see more. Increase that perspective. Press the bum down. Feel the engagement and articulation through the lower back. Fill the ribs up like a balloon expanding, particularly the back ribs. Press the back of the head down. Tilt the chin away from the chest. Soften the forehead. Again, breathe into what feels tight. Breathe 3. Breathe 2. 1. And then again, we let everything soften. Notice the breath. Okay, one last time. Press the bum down. So as the bum goes down, the arch in the lower back tilts up. That again sets the thigh bone back in the hip socket. I was explaining that earlier. Back of the head pressing down. Even that in itself, front of the neck get longer, but you keep the pressure of the head on the floor. Now breathe into the back. Breathe into the back of the shoulders. Breathe into the lower back. Sides of the ribs. Sustain all of this. 5, 4, 3, 2. Nice work. Okay. If it's comfortable, extend one leg out, extend two legs out. The feet are a little wider than the hips. Arms, a little bit of space between the arms and the torso. So the arms are at kind of a 45-degree angle, we could say. Now, we're breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth. Both the inhalation and exhalation is as long as you can make it comfortably. So it's not about your fullest, your deepest, but a long that doesn't require much effort. So it's very relaxed. In through the nose, out. And initially, the breath is silent. Slow, long, deep. Now at the top of the next inhalation, can you pause, holding the breath for as long as that feels comfortable? So when the inclination to breathe comes, you begin that slow, long exhalation. This time the exhalation has a kind of a, like imagine you're pushing a paper boat, you're blowing a paper boat away from you on water. And the whole exhalation is even. So just the pause at the top of the inhalation to begin. Stay with the breath. Now, could you also bring a pause to the end of your exhalation? To overwork. You might notice the inclination to want to gasp. This is just the changing oxygen, CO2 levels in the body. See if you can stay with the steadiness. After the next exhalation, take that pause. So let the attention come back to your breath. Come back to your inhalation, your exhalation. Without moving or shifting, just noticing the breath. And then take some deeper breaths and begin to stretch a little. So moving the fingers, toes, stretching, whatever way feels good. And then when you're ready, bending the knees one at a time and rolling over to the right side. And use the hand arm like a pillow and just pause here for a moment. Just come back to the breath. Just notice the breath again. Be close to your breath. And then we're going to come back to sitting. So take your time, come up, get comfortable in your seat. Close the eyes again. Let your belly relax. Be close to your breath. Even noting the state of awareness shift. How you feel different from when you began your practice. Again, we are these complex beings, and our capacity to experience ourselves in the world, or you could say to see ourselves in the world, is so shiftable, that we really, in a sense, we're the ones creating this. And it may well be unconsciously a lot of the time, an accumulation of our lives, our environment, our society, our wounding, coupled with our magnificence, coupled with our eternal nature, our capacity for these more expansive qualities, to experience these. And then through a practice like this type of practice, it's beginning to bring our state of awareness into a more conscious place, beginning to explore consciously, how do we shift into these deeper, stiller spaces within ourselves and feed this part of ourselves that is deeply connected, deeply present, deeply expansive, deeply wise, and deeply loving. And this is a place beyond the rational, beyond the logical, beyond the empirical. This is the place of the intuitive heart. And for many of us, that space is so protected that it is locked away. And only in great moments of big drama, moments in which there is a death or there is a life, or there is those big moments, does the space open to be experienced. And these practices invite us to access this space of the heart. And each time we go into it, this space has the opportunity to realign us, to bring us to the alignment of the heart, to the eyes of the heart, the wisdom of the heart, which is a profound place, a deeply rich place, and a place that kind of gets the bigger picture. So just for a moment, we're going to make a little bit of noise before we seal our practice. If you're around people, you don't want to make any noise, just do this internally. Okay. Very simple, just Om, the sound Om. Aum, A-U-M, Aum, Aum. And that bit when the lips come together, that vibration it creates inside the head, I want you to really feel that. Aum. Okay, close the eyes. Take a deep breath. Just one more. Bringing the two hands to the center of the chest to connect. The hands representing what we do through our practice by bringing all those different parts of ourselves, all those fragmented parts back together, back home, back to balance. We invite every part of ourself, the hidden, the disenfranchised, the disconnected, the wounded. We invite every part of ourselves home. And we acknowledge that in our humanness, we are perfect. And it's only by exploring and looking for that fuller version of ourselves, allowing ourselves to be as we are, that we finally find that place that feels at ease in our own skin and in the world. Taking the hands to touch the forehead. And the lips. And bringing them back to the heart. And then to ourselves and to each other we bow. Namaste. Good work. Good work. Well done. So, I hope you have a great day. And I hope this sets you up for an even better day. We have 2-day retreats coming up, one in October, one in November. The one in October is sold out, but there's a couple of spaces left in the one in November. It's in Greystones. It's a day retreat, so we're doing a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours in the afternoon, some lunch in between. And the theme is kindness. So the practice is rooted around how we access that deeper quality of kindness, which really is anchored in self-love. So it's those practices of how we really honor ourselves and awaken to that deeper place within ourselves. So there's movement, there's stillness work, meditation work, breath work, contemplation, in a beautiful spot by the sea in Greystones. So a couple of spots for the November. And that's on my website, michaelryanyoga.com. And of course, if you want to pay or need to pay, you can also do that through the website. And I will see you next time. Blessings.